Hey folks, this is Caleb Fushy with the Dust Bowl Catholic, and this is my Catholic dollar. Well, all right, folks, we made it. Good for you. We made it through all of the weeks in this 14-week program. We're on the final mansion of St. Teresa's interior castle as we go through our My Catholic Dollar curriculum. And now, let's check on that last mansion from St. Teresa. Here we go. The seventh mansion is full spiritual union with God. You are filled to the very center of your soul with God's splendor, beauty, and majesty. On the My Catholic Dollar side, yay, you've made it. Expand your investing so you can give. Charity covers a multitude of sins. Well, that's what it's all about from here on out. We've already taken care of ourselves, so it's now time to take care of others and to take care of the church, which we've talked about throughout this 14 weeks. So let's look at our first Bible verse, which we alluded to just a little bit ago. Here we go. 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8, above all, hold unfailing your love for one another, since love covers a multitude of sins. I don't know about you, but our goal in life is to make it to heaven. And I've got plenty of shortcomings. And so I need some sort of band-aid other than, confession and the sacraments that might give me any sort of help I can get to get there. And if love, or in the bigger picture, charity, covers a multitude of sins, then once I get to this point, it's going to be a free-for-all. I plan to help as many folks as I can and help the church and the priests and the seminarians the best way I can moving forward. And I think that, we have to keep in mind that you can't buy your way into heaven. But it's important to do our best to help those folks or those organizations that further the church's cause and, just to spread Catholic culture wherever we can. So now, there is a bit of a caveat to this, and that's found in our next verse. Here we go. Beware of practicing your piety before men in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. This is a big deal because, think about this, nobody likes to sit around with somebody that all they do is toot their own horn and talk about how great they are and all the good things they've done. There's a parable in one of the Gospels that talks about, do not be like the Pharisees. They go about, making sure everybody knows that they're doing penance or whatever. We are supposed to do things in private so that, God knows. God knows what we're doing. God knows our hearts and what we really intend when we do things. We don't need to have everybody else know this and see this. It's kind of a cruel thing for our brains to comprehend because everybody loves to be loved. Everybody loves to get approval from other people. But really, when it comes down to it, it's only God that matters. So let's go to our next verse. Give to him who asks of you, and do not turn away from him who wants to borrow from you. So we kind of talked about this back during our stewardship and our usury sessions, that we should be willing to help somebody out and lend them money, but we only lend them what they ask. We don't request anything extra in return. That would be usury if we charged any sort of interest. So, it's important to always be willing and ready and able to help somebody out that's in need, but to stay within the confines of what we have studied and what we believe and what the church teaches when it comes to lending folks. But, it's been something that I've read about a lot and heard about a lot of things. Say that somebody comes to you and needs $1,000. You say, okay, I'll give you $1,000. You just pay me back $100 a month and we'll get there. So, a lot of folks who are very into charity, they will take that $100 a month back and just hold it over on the side. And then once somebody gets to that $1,000 and gets them paid off, they'll take that $1,000 and hand it right back to those folks as a gift. Because one, you allowed somebody their dignity to pay you back, to truly borrow. And then you are blessing them by saying, here you go. It's all yours. You know, what sort of a great thing could that be for somebody? Let's look at our next verse. Instruct them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share. Well, this verse in 1 Timothy is St. Paul talking to St. Timothy and what Timothy should teach to the different churches that he's over. And, you know, it's really, you know, key that we should be generous and ready to share of what we have. God has blessed us. We were able to be good stewards of it and expand it as good as we can. And now we need to bless others as well as we can as well. So it's just you know, there's an old movie, you know, the Pay It Forward movie. That's really what this comes down to. And you know, it doesn't have to be people. You can pay it forward to your church, because your church, you know, they will know who those folks in the parish are that need a little help. And so they'll be able to take that little bit of extra money that you give them and hand it over to somebody else who really needs it. So remember that. Don't always be giving to whatever pops up on your, you know, your social media feed or whatever. You know, you need to remember the church first. Okay, and always be trying to get to that, give more than 10% on your tithe so that they can help somebody else. Let's go to our next one. In 1 John, but whoever has the world's goods and sees his brother in need and closes his heart against him, how does the love of God abide in him? Yet another reminder that we are called to be generous. When we have taking care of ourselves and got everything in order, you know, we are not to be, you know, the Uncle Scrooge or, you know, the Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, you know, where we only give when it helps us out, or, you know, we sit around and count our stacks of money. We're not to do that. It doesn't do us any good to do this. You know, we need to help others who are not as well off as we are, who haven't gotten their financial houses in order like we have. That's the key. And that was the whole reason to begin this. Go back and watch other weeks from earlier. Our whole point in this is to get to a point where we can help others and help the church as much as we can. Here's our last verse, and it's a good one. Here we go. And now there remain faith, hope, and charity, these three. But the greatest of these is charity. Of all the things we have, our house, our car, clothes, you know, that fancy dinner that we go out to every now and then, none of that remains. None of that stays with us. But when you help a single mother give Christmas to her kids, that remains. That stays. When you help somebody who's down to their last dollar stay in their house another month or 2 or 3, that remains. And people remember that. So please think about what will outlive you. An act of kindness that impacts a child will live a lot longer than we ever could hope to. Let's look at our homework. We are still sticking with prayer and going to St. Teresa. She can guide you looking for charitable places and charitable things to do with your money. Number 2, you still have to communicate. You and your wife should be on the same page, or your husband, to who you give this money to. You know, we don't want to step outside and give money to something that our spouse wouldn't want us to give to. Stay on the same page. And 3, it's time to give. There's no better thing that you can do once you have everything in order than to give it away and create an impact that remains. I'm Caleb Foshu, the Dust Bowl Catholic, and this was the My Catholic Dollar series. Please be sure to subscribe, like, and share, and give us a comment on how you went through this series. Be sure to come back next week. We'll have a little bit of bonus episodes for you. Until that time, be not afraid.